Hey, I'm Melissa. I am at Dragonman's, and I am making this video today to give you an update on SB 25-003. Before I get into it, just letting you all know, if you haven't heard about us, we're a multi-recreational facility consisting of firearm store, shooting ranges, dirt bike tracks, paintball parks. We have a motorcycle rebuilding shop behind me, and we have one of the most unique privately owned military collections in the United States to come out, and we'd love to see you. And the museum will open April 27th for tours. Other than that, everything else is open Tuesday through Sunday, 9:30 to 4. I have a bunch of guns in front of me because I am not trying to make these videos solely about legal stuff, because that's not what we started as, and I still want to get you guys excited about things that are coming out and the ingenuity in the industry and some cool stuff going on here. But let me just kind of give you an update if you are a little bit late to the party as to what happened yesterday on the Senate floor. So kind of going back a little bit to Thursday, pretty much one of the worst gun bans that Colorado has seen. Bills went to the second reading, and it was passed on a 15-18 vote. There was one senator who was absent, and she has now actually given up her seat because a lot of her aides were claiming, and it was a Democrat senator claiming, that there was a lot of misconduct and mistreatment to her aides. So they filed a ethical misconduct report, and so now there was an investigation on her, and then she actually fabricated a letter from one of an aide that supposedly worked for her still, that actually worked for her years ago, and so that surfaced, and so she actually just gave up her seat before she was forced to resign. And that'll be filled with a vacancy spot, because we're only one of 5 states that allow these spots to be filled from a vacancy spot in a vacancy committee. So I can't wait to see who they're going to put there. If you remember, Tim Hernandez, who championed the last semi-automatic ban bill, was a vacancy spot filler, and he was sponsoring one of the most sweeping gun ban bills that Colorado had ever seen last year, and he wasn't even picked by Colorado. So the Republicans really tried hard on Thursday to filibuster the bill. And what filibustering means is that they essentially will debate for a long period of time, trying to delay the vote or get the bill laid over. So a lot of customers were coming in saying, man, I wish the Republicans just got to the point. And I just wanted to remind them that that was strategic on their part. They fill up a lot of time because they are trying to filibuster the bill. So that's what's going on there, and as a result, the Democrats weren't able to vote on it until 1:30 in the morning on Friday. So therefore, they couldn't go to its third reading Friday, and they had to wait until yesterday. So it just gave us a little bit more time to figure out what this amendment was about, and maybe to still email our senators, letting them know how we felt. Yesterday, it was voted through on a vote of 19-15. Some people had changed their vote, and I'm going to talk about the amendment here in a minute, but Senator Mollica and Lindsay Doherty and Dylan Roberts all voted. They were kind of like the flip votes a little bit. They did vote yes for this. I think the amendment really appeased them, and therefore they were a yes vote. Now, Dylan Roberts had previously said that he was a no vote. So, I just really feel deceived when these people put out public statements saying I'm not for this bill, and then they vote yes. So it's just really frustrating. Now, one of the senators, like I had mentioned, Senator Jacquez, she did resign, so that's why it was only 34 votes total. 15 people did vote against it, though, including 3 Democrats. Now, this was kind of interesting. So Mark Snyder here in Manitou, he voted no. He actually took his name off of the bill. And then also Tony Exum, and then also Nick Henriksen in Pueblo voted no. So I did appreciate that. He had basically put out a public statement saying that if it wasn't just downgraded to a binary trigger ban type thing, then he would vote no on it. So I'm glad that he actually stuck by his word, and I really appreciated that. Tony Exum, a group, I don't know exactly who it was, but they had essentially started a Recall Tony Exum page, and I think Tony heard about it because it said that if Tony votes yes on this, then they're going to start the recall. Now, some interesting things about that. So Tony actually did vote no, and obviously because he was in fear of the fact that he might be recalled. And I feel like if I was someone who voted for him, I would wonder why he didn't stick by his guns, and if this was such a safety crisis and he really felt passionate about voting yes on this, and this is how he felt, then why are you going to just try to save yourself from getting recalled and not actually try to do good if this is how you truly felt about the bill. So a lot of hypocrisy going on there. The bill was passed, unfortunately. However, there was a fiscal note attached to it, and also this amendment L041 that creates a training requirement. So now the senators are saying, well, we're going to be really nice. We're going to give you these guns back, and you just have to get, some training, and we're doing you like a big favor. Now, a right, by definition, is not something that the government permits us to exercise. Right is our ability to exercise freely without government interference. And it's just mind-blowing how illegal this feels. And it's basically like the FOID card in Illinois, which actually is experienced some very negative hurdles up at the Supreme Court. So Coloradoans, you should be extremely angered by this bill that now we're having to get permission to exercise a right. Imagine if we had to get permission to exercise our freedom of speech. Imagine if I had to go and get a eligibility card to make this video. I think everyone would have a big discrepancy on that. All right, so now getting to the actual training requirements. You can either take a hunter safety class and then a short class, or if you don't take the hunter safety class with the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, you have to take the long class. Before you can take any of the short class or the long classes, you have to get permission from the Sheriff's Department. So that means you have to go and submit fingerprint cards, undergo a federal background check, and then they also look into your history of behavioral misconduct. So this is really like a judgment call from the Sheriff's Department as to whether they feel like you should be eligible for this card, and it's a little bit concerning. And then in the bill, it doesn't really say if they have to explain why you got denied. So that's a problem in itself. And then also you have to pay more fees, and there's, however long waiting period to even get your appointment and then also get your eligibility card. Once you get that card though, and you get permission once again to exercise a right, you can then go and take the classes, the short class or the long class. Short class, again, if you took the hunter safety class, that you didn't need permission for, or the long class, if you didn't take that one. So once you do that, and you have to pass the test with 90% or better. Now this creates a lot of barriers for people with disabilities. I can't tell you how many people in the last couple of years have come to me for the CHP classes asking if I can give them a private class because they just don't really learn very easily. Test taking is very hard for them because they can't really read well. And I think this is extremely discriminatory to people with disabilities. So with that being said, though, once you pass that class and you check off all those requirements, then the instructor adds you to this fabricated program that doesn't even exist yet, where they essentially enter your name into a database saying that you took that class, and now you can go and buy one of these firearms where the FFL can then look up in the database whether your name is on that roster. Now this is really like a backdoor registry, letting the Colorado government know, who is purchasing these types of firearms. So that in itself is a, intrusion of your privacy. And there's so many things wrong with this amendment, and I could really, really go on and on. So that's basically the training requirement in a nutshell. More fees and just really an infringement on our rights, and I definitely see lawsuits being filed against this. Now, another amendment that they made was that FFLs can sell firearms that they have permanently fixed the magazine to, meaning that, I don't know, we're going to have to actually drill into the lower mag well of the receiver to permanently affix this magazine. It completely damages the integrity of the receiver, creating a lot of safety issues with the firearm in itself, and then also the magazine with loading and cycling. So this would create a lot of safety concerns. And the hypocrisy, once again, is the senators who, Julie Gonzalez and Tom Sullivan, they, and all the people who voted for this bill were really concerned about your safety, but they want to just completely overlook the fact that this amendment actually makes firearms more unsafe. So that's a problem too. But that's the amendment that was made. And I had someone joke with me that, can we just like super glue it? Because they didn't really talk about how it could be fixed. So that was kind of funny. Another big problem with this bill is that it says gas operated. handgun that accepts a magazine, this could be problematic in so many ways because it's such arbitrary language. And if you have any moderate Democrat friends or you're a moderate Democrat watching this video, you should feel completely angered by the verbiage used in this bill, because later on down the road, if they want to interpret it as such, because anytime that there is a expelling of the gases from the cartridge, from the powder, from the burning powder, that's essentially a gas operated type of system. So they're saying that it's not going to be illegal because it's not recoil operated, but it's really just how you want to interpret the language. And that's extremely dangerous territory for anyone who even feels like, we should still be allowed to own firearms. What happens next and what can we do? So because there was a fiscal note attached to this, it will more than likely go to the appropriations in the House. Now, it might go to the Judiciary Committee first, and then it'll go to appropriations. But to implement this this amendment, L041, with the training requirement, will actually create a $2.4 million expense, a lot of stuff for CBI, a lot of staffing issues for maybe Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and then also the programs to create this this registry for instructors to now put names into the database. So there's a lot of things going on, and actually if you go to the bill, you can read the fiscal note, and it actually breaks down all of the expenses and so forth. Now they will be making a lot of money from the background checks, and then also doing the classes, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, the instructors paying Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So, could they just kind of look at that and be like, well, we're making money too, so maybe that won't completely kill the bill. But we'll definitely see, because there is some overhead to implement this before they would start seeing that revenue come in. Also, another big issue with this is that Colorado Parks and Wildlife will be pretty overwhelmed, I think. This bill is supposed to go into effect September 1st. Guess, when hunting season starts, and they're going to be issuing a lot of permits for that. So are they going to be able to juggle all of this, and will people even be able to get their eligibility to purchase these firearms in a adequate amount of time, or will we be getting approved like a year from now? So there's a lot of issues with this. And once again, in the House, you will be able to testify. So, I hate that some people feel hopeless and they're like, well, this bill hasn't been killed yet and everything we did was for nothing. I think because of what you guys all did is why the governor even felt like he couldn't pass the bill as is, because there's a lot of pushback. There was a lot of uproar from citizens like you. And as a result, maybe we wouldn't have seen Amendment L041, and maybe it would have just been a sweeping gun ban, which could ultimately come, in years, in the future. But that's why we always have to fight, and just sitting around doing nothing definitely doesn't help the case. So I do think that everything that you guys are doing is extremely helpful, and I really encourage you to once again testify in the House. As many people as possible, just to show support in opposition of this bill, and then hopefully we see a lot of amendments coming to the bill, or it potentially gets killed, because we still could kill it if some Democrats actually vote no, in convincing them that this is a huge overreach of government interference and a complete infringement on our rights, and there will be lawsuits filed, and it will be extremely expensive for Colorado. So a couple of things to mention if you do testify is this bill really is a privilege only for the wealthy. And I'm actually taking some of these pieces from an article written by Leslie Hollywood, and really, really smart woman here fighting in Colorado. If you haven't heard from her, I'm going to provide the link to this article. You can find her page, like Rally for Our Rights. And there's also some information on We the Second. So I'm going to put some of those links in the description. Also a link to testify. And then just, you guys can always listen in. There's audio where you can actually listen into what the senators and the House Representatives are saying. Sometimes you can watch videos. Sometimes you can just listen by audio. I'm also posting some stuff in our YouTube post, so pay attention to that when I don't have time to make a video all the time. But it is a privilege only for the wealthy. There's going to be a lot more expenses. With the excise tax here in April 1st going into effect, 6.5% additional on your firearms, ammo, and firearm accessories. Also, transfer fees could be going up. Background checks fees are going up by CBI to $15 in the state of Colorado. There's just a lot of expenses, and now you have to pay for all these training requirements, and it's really just, owning a firearm is for the wealthy, and that's not how it should be, because that's a right. That's how we can protect ourselves. Right, a gun registry by another name, when we have to put your name into a database. Again, barriers for people with disabilities with the testing and the training requirements. It is overburdening for hunter education, so they're going to have to get a lot more instructors. Colorado Parks and Wildlife, did they even agree to this? Do they even know what's going on? I'm sure they do, obviously, but I'm sure they're not happy about it. It's kind of like CBI, when the senators last year wanted to pass the state permitting license, and they initially were going to have CBI regulate it, and CBI was like, no way, we already have enough to do. So then they had to put the burden on the Department of Revenue, and that's who's regulating it now. And then our tax dollars are paying for their salaries. A blow to rural and mountain communities. So a lot of people have to travel to get testing, to buy certain types of firearms, if they're all getting, sold out right away. But it will just be burdening to a lot of people in rural communities who, maybe have really long police wait times and arrival times, where now they have to go through all these hoops to just be able to protect their land, protect their property, and protect their families. So I'm sure there's a ton of other things that you guys can think of. You're all smart individuals. The safety implications with, creating your own fixed magazine to a firearm. So that in itself, and then just the fact that this is entirely an infringement, and we really should not be having these conversations in Colorado. My parents have owned a firearm store since the 90s. I grew up in one, and the political climate that I grew up in is just not what it is now. And it's really sad to see this state kind of go in a very negative way, where they don't honor the people's rights, and they don't listen to the people showing up to testify. The initial first reading, I mean, the amount of people that showed up to testify was completely overwhelming compared to the people who showed up in favor of it. People in favor ran out to testify at about 6, 7 o'clock, and then the people in opposition went well past the time that they were going to allow, and they still had to cut it off for the people on Zoom. So what does that tell them? Like, this is not what Colorado wants. We don't want to see these bills, but unfortunately there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes where Democrats are winning seats, and now they have the majority, so they're passing an onslaught of these anti-gun bills. To give you a little bit of hope, though, in the future, this last election, we were able to flip 3 House seats and 1 Senate seat. We didn't lose any Republican seats, so that is really hopeful. And I think after people just see what kind of bills that they want to, push, hopefully it really causes some people to get out and vote and flips more seats. The Senate, we only really need to flip like 2 seats to really neutralize some control in there, 2 to 3 seats. So it's not completely hopeless, and you got to get out and vote, and you got to be a little bit more proactive. So I'm actually going to make another video about the firearms here in front of me, because I don't want to make this too long. So be sure to tune in to that. Thanks for watching.